you're not obligated to make any repairs. You can repair everything they ask for. You can repair some things they ask for. You can say, I'm not repairing anything. Or you can repair some things and offer cash in lieu of repairs. It's up to the buyer to decide if that's enough for them to proceed.
Welcome to the RE Real Estate Podcast, where we discuss buying and selling real estate in black and white. Here are your hosts, Ben Harang and Clint Galliano.
Hey, Ben, how you doing?
I'm doing terrific this afternoon, man. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Glad to hear it. What are we talking about today?
All right, so today we're going to talk about inspections on the home from the seller perspective. So we've talked about inspections from the buyer perspective, and we've kind of gone into and covered a little bit on what the seller's activities are, but we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into what the seller's perspective is here. So when the way the inspections happen is that the buyers should have their agent immediately schedule an inspection to check on the condition of the home. And as we've said before, the inspection is not to beat the sellers up on overprice and all that fun stuff, even though some buyers like to try and use that to do that. It's not a negotiating tool. It's basically for the buyers to understand what condition the home is in. But there may be some conditions that exist in the home that either will not allow the loan or not allow the home to pass FHA or rural development guidelines, which could be things like exposed wood, chipped or peeling paint, appliances that don't work. Could be something like, and this is for all three GSE loans, so that's VA, RD, and FHA. If it doesn't have a permanent attached heat source that will keep the home above 55 degrees in the event of cold weather, things like that. The other thing would be damaged, I think I said damaged appliances already. So if you've got an air conditioner in there that doesn't work or something like that, or a dishwasher that doesn't work, then that would be a flag on the appraisal for FHA and RD. VA doesn't care. They figure that they're veterans. They've eaten out of tin cans. They can wash their own dishes, I would assume.
Well, the difference is if there's a dishwasher in the house, it has to work. There is no requirement that the dishwasher has to be in the house. So
Correct.
if it's broken, take the dishwasher out and leave the hole for the appraisal. If the buyer's going to buy it in that condition.
From my understanding, more recently, FHA and RD will not accept a hole where a dishwasher used to be, that there has to be some type of covering or at least finish that it, you can't say, oh, well, you obviously just took out the dishwasher.
Okay.
That there was a point like 2 years ago where you could do that. If it didn't work, pull it out and hey, you're good to go. It's not a non-working appliance because it's not there.
That's right. That's right. But things change over time.
Yeah. That, up until about a year ago, window units were acceptable cooling and heating apparatus for FHA and RD.
So we're sitting in South Louisiana, right? Where it tends to get a little warm. So the requirement is that we have to have a permanent heat source. We don't have to have a permanent air conditioning source. We have to have a permanent heat source. It's a little backwards to me, but that's what the requirement is. So
what I suspect that that's based on is that much greater damage could come to the home from it freezing up, pipes busting, and flooding the home and damaging the home than it just getting hot.
Right. Right. I get that. It's just it seems counterintuitive.
I know, especially from down here.
I just like to point stuff like that out. Because people say, wait, we need heat, but we don't need air conditioning. Well, that's the rules.
And if we're in California, that would be the opposite. They need heaters, but most of them don't have air conditioners. And
right.
So when it does get warm, people freak out.
Yeah, because it's too hot.
They're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Those are some of the things that we look for, or I should say that we see come across as repair responses. Other things are add in GFCIs to a I'm just going to pick a date out of the air, 1980 home.
Right. Before they were required.
Yeah, right. And I don't know the date they started requiring them when the code required it. But, they'll say add in GFCIs. And that's a minimal matter. I mean, even paying labor, you're looking at probably a total of $100 for an electrician.
Yes, that's a matter of just replacing the actual receptacle.
Right. Some of the other things would be like, oh, well, you've only got 2 conductor wiring. I want you to rewire the whole house. That's my repair request. And my sellers look at that, and I had one in particular say, we're already giving you $12,000 in closing costs to help you make this purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not gonna fly with that.
Yeah.
It's those are some extreme examples, but it's things that you see. Common things are, put the drain off of the TPR, temperature pressure relief valve, on your water heat. That across the board, the appraisers look at that and say you need that. That's a safety hazard. Drain pan is, while every inspector will say you need a drain pan, plumbing code actually says if it wasn't installed originally with the house, it doesn't need one. Ideally, you want one, but the common pan that gets put, if you have a catastrophic failure of your water tank, it's not going to do you much good. It's just going to be...
It's not going to hold 40 gallons of water.
Right. It's going to just retain small leaks and keep that from leaking. And to be honest, if you have a small leak, unless it's a continuous stream, it's going to wind up evaporating anyways. So those are, kind of minor things to look at and consider when evaluating the repair request. So as a seller, when you look at that, you kind of wonder, it's like, oh my God, this is a lot of things they're asking that could lead to a lot of money. So you're not obligated to make any repairs. Here are your options as far as the repair request goes. You can repair everything they ask for. You can repair some things they ask for. You can say, nope, I'm not repairing anything. Or you can repair some things and offer cash in lieu of repairs for the rest of it. Or whatever combination you want. Mm-hmm. And then it's up to the buyer to decide on if that's enough for them to proceed towards active sale, or if they feel that's a showstopper and they're canceling the contract. And that's their right. And they get their good faith deposit back, and everybody moves on, and we go from there.
Mm-hmm. So what I tell people is, from the seller side, if the buyer asks for anything, whatever it is, a new roof, rewire, tear up the driveway, whatever it is, if you agree to it, the buyer's buying that house. If you don't agree to if you agree to 9 of the 10 things they asked for, the buyer will have the last bite at the apple to say yes or no. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game. How bad do you want to sell it? How expensive are the repairs? but I try to set expectations with the sellers. And, we say it's not supposed to renegotiate. Generally, that's what we're doing. If the buyers ask for something, it means they're not happy. So let's see what we can do to make them happy. But be realistic. If the seller's requests are realistic and they are the appraisal issues or their safety issues, you ought to seriously consider doing them, because you're going to run into that with the next buyer if this buyer says no. If this buyer says, I don't like the color of the paint in the master bedroom or the primary bedroom, I want you to paint it. No, that's not something that you should be considering. The buyer should be making an offer on the house in the apparent condition that it's in, with the expectation that if the house was built in 1980, it's not going to be in compliance with 2025 building codes. If they want a 2025 compliant house, I can go sell them one. But the 1980 house is not for them.
Correct.
So at the end of the day, is $250 or $1,000 worth losing the sale over? The seller can probably get it done for less than the buyer would discount the price for. So you go ahead and do it. If things like electrical outlets that don't work, I just had one. The electrical outlet by the kitchen sink didn't work. It was a GFCI. It went back. They agreed to change it. A breaker was bad in the panel when we did the inspection. They changed it as soon as we left the house. They changed the breaker. So it's you respond based on what the buyer gives you. You don't get your feelings hurt because they're asking for something. It's a business deal at this point. You decided to sell your house. We want to get to the closing. If they're asking for too much, we're not going to get to the closing with that buyer. If they're not asking for too much, we'll probably get to the closing with that buyer. And the buyer's agent should be setting the expectation with the buyer on what they're getting. If they're looking for a new house, if they want something compliant with 2025 building codes, buy a new house. Don't buy one that's built in 1980. Don't even look at it. You're wasting everybody's time. So if you just respond appropriately, if we have reasonable expectations, if what they're asking for has safety issues or appraisal issues, those are the kind of things that you should consider. If the listing agent did their job on the front end, those things should be minimized, because you should have a conversation with the seller about what they should think about fixing before you put the house on the market. And we have a whole episode about how to get the house ready to go to market. Now compare it to a thoroughbred race. Thoroughbred racehorse getting in the starting gate. He wants to go, and we hold him back, and all of a sudden we release it, and house hits the market. And in a perfect world, it lasts for a few days, a week, and it goes under contract.
Yeah, getting back to what you were saying about the buyer's agent should be tempering expectations. That really explains in a nutshell what we see when inspections come across, or inspection requests come across. If they're asking for everything in the inspection report, then that maybe that conversation didn't happen.
Right.
If you're seeing, maybe some 3 or 4 minor things and some major things, then maybe that's a negotiation tactic to give them some things to say, okay, yeah, I'll do this, but I don't want to do that. Could go either way, but ultimately, like you said, the buyer's agent should be managing those expectations and explaining, regardless of what that buyer is saying, should be explaining to them, we can't ask for everything. This is the condition of the home. And if you're wanting something in perfect condition or near perfect condition, then there are some new construction homes up the road.
One short war story. Have a house under contract now. The window seal went bad. We asked it to be replaced, and the seller refused to replace it. In my mind, as a buyer's agent, that's something that the seller should have addressed. But we were able to find out the unit is about 5 years old. We were able to find the builder who gave me the name of the building material supplier house that they bought the materials from. I was able to find somebody there that actually knew what they sold them, and the window is under warranty. Wow. So they're going to ship a new window, and the buyer's going to pay to install it, which is actually cheaper than the offer that they made to split the cost of a new window. So, there's no roadmap on how to get it done. You just figure out a way to get it done.
Yep. So overall, the process is the inspection happens. The buyer's agent goes sometimes with the buyer, sometimes just with the inspector. They inspect your home. Then they review the inspection report and put together a buyer's response. They send that to the listing agent. Listing agent shares that with the seller. They review and decide what, if anything, they're going to do on that request list and respond back. And that's considered the seller's response. And then the buyer has the last word, and they decide if that response is a good enough answer for them, and if they're going to proceed towards active sale, or if they're going to walk away. And I'd say probably 95% of the time, we proceed towards active sale. Yeah, sometimes we get to the point where we unfortunately had a deal fall apart last week where they found all kinds of termite damage in the home. And at that point, the buyer was disgusted and said, "No, I don't want this." And they were in their right to cancel the contract.
There's legitimate reasons why they would cancel an agreement.
Right.
Now, you and I talked last week about the timelines on response to the buyer's inspection request. And it goes something like this. The buyer has their time period to respond, to make a request, to say everything's fine. Within their inspection period, a due diligence period, once they make the request, if they made the request on the 7th of a 10-day inspection period, the inspection period is over. You don't get another 3-day bite at the apple. Then the seller has 72 hours to respond. A lack of a response from the seller to the buyer is an automatic termination. The buyer can terminate with nothing further. So you want to respond as the seller. When the buyer gets the seller's
it's not that the buyer can terminate, it's that the contract is terminated, period.
The contract is terminated, right. But if you still have two willing parties, it's okay. You might need to do an addendum.
Right.
And you also have the seller's response, or the buyer's response to the seller's response. So if the buyer says, "Okay, I'll take the seller's response," and they don't respond, the deal's off. So you need to close the loop from the selling side from the buyer side back to the seller, that you're accepting their final response. Even if their response was, "We'll do everything," you still need to acknowledge that it was received in time and you're proceeding with the closing. So don't get caught. I don't want either side to get caught in that technicality.
Yeah, that's a critical one. All right. And that's pretty much it at that point. Either everybody's happy or everybody's looking for new transaction partners. Right.
And I tell people, because we do both sides. At this point, it becomes a business deal. You like your house, you want to sell your house. Don't get your feelings hurt because the buyer's trying to get you to do some things. You do them if you want, don't do them if you want. But it's a business deal. Don't make an emotional decision. Make a pragmatic business decision and try to get the deal to close because I think it's always cheaper to close than it is to put the house back on the market.
Agreed.
So that's just a tidbit of 30 years of experience. So, all right. I guess that wraps it up, Clint.
Yes, indeed.
I think it was a good one. We got some good content. If you're getting value from these podcasts, you can like, subscribe, and share it. We're just getting started. I think we've released 15 episodes. We have 4 or 5 more in the can, ready to go. So if you have any questions, email us. Go to the website, realestatepodcast.com. Send us an email. Comment on the video or the audio. We'll see it. We'll find it. We'll talk about it in the next episode. So have a good day, Clint.
If you go to the website, we've got a form set up where you can ask questions also that we'll answer here on the podcast.
I forgot about that. Good catch.
Add that to your sticky note.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next time. Y'all have a great week.
All right. Have a good one, Ben.
While we may discuss topics such as lending, interest rates, title law, real estate law, and appraisals in addition to real estate sales and transactions, please remember that we are only trained and licensed as real estate salespeople in Louisiana. The information shared on this podcast is for general purposes only and should not be taken as legal or financial advice. We may be agents, but unless we have signed paperwork stating otherwise, we are not your agents.